Welcome to our endometriosis awareness chat. I'm Liz, president and patient advocate for EndoForward Foundation, and
I'm Yadi, our creative director and secretary.
we're just coming on tonight just to have a quick little chat. We didn't have anybody join us, so we're just going to have somewhat of a little roundtable discussion just between the two of us. And if you want to see more of these, drop a comment in the box below and we will get more of these going. Somewhat like a little podcast, but maybe not really a podcast. Just to kind of chat things out. I think we were talking about this the other day about how whenever we start just talking like normally, the thoughts like start flowing and we wind up in like 10 places down the road from where we began of the topic we wanted to talk about. So
The train wreck.
yeah, the train wreck. So
It's
we were
train wreck.
talking about the whole Whoopi Goldberg thing and how misinformation leads to the delay in care. And what were you just telling me?
So I had just left my OB-GYN appointment and I had mentioned they always bring up the when was your last period question. And I was
Mhm.
like, I haven't had one and I don't even know how long anymore because of all the different birth controls I've tried. But before my diagnosis and before all the birth controls, I had a regular period and I didn't have a heavy flow.
Oh, I'm jealous.
You look at like the symptoms kind of that pop up on Google and it's irregular period,
Mhm.
heavy bleeding. And I started to get frustrated because I'm like, maybe if I had those, someone would have done something sooner.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I would go like,
Really?
I would have periods for like 6 weeks at a time. Like it wouldn't stop like for 4 or 6 weeks. It was just constant.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't always be like super heavy. Like at times I could wear like a panty liner and not really that bad. And other times it was like a super tampon, right? And you
Yeah.
just have like those ebbs and flows. But yeah, like 4 or 6 weeks at a time. And I was like, is this ever going to stop? Um, and always like so much pain, like so much pain. It was so painful. Like I would lay on the bathroom floor. I remember laying on the bathroom floor and my mom being like, it can't be that bad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it is this bad. Like it is this bad. I promise you, like I am dying. I remember one specific time I had tickets to a concert and I was like pacing and pacing and pacing in front of the bed. Like, I'm not going to be able to go. I'm going to have to cancel. And like, I really wanted to go, right? Like, concerts happen so infrequently, right? We have tickets and you're like, well, if they don't ever come back around, and this group never came back
Yeah.
around, right? So I've like never had the opportunity to see them again. And I was like, I can just suck it up. Like, and that's what you always hear. Like, we're women, like, we're strong. And we want to like always push this agenda of like, suck it up, you can do it. Like, women are
Yeah.
mighty warriors. And so
Having to live through periods.
yes. And so I sucked it up and I went, but like heavy, heavy flow like all day. And no, I disagree. I think regardless of, what our symptoms are and like what Google says and, the amount of training that doctors have, we all run into these barriers of, like lack of access to care. And it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, like for me, it just felt like maybe if my, because I was like, I knew my pain was bad, but that's not something that they could see. And so
Yeah.
maybe if I'm telling them like it's irregular, I have very heavy bleeding, they'd be like, okay. Yeah, that's concerning. Instead of me just being like, ouchie. Everything else is normal, but ouchie. It only got me so far.
Only that we're that easy, right? I wish. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's definitely frustrating. I was having a conversation with my husband earlier and like I've had like a very emotional day from, and I have my diagnosis, right? So it's not something that directly impacts me right in this moment. So some people might be like, why are you crying over it? Or why are you so emotional about it? And I just get so emotional because I always think of like the next person, right? And we're here to like try to make things better for the next person that's coming up and to make sure that people don't suffer as much as we did. And it's just frustrating to hear that, people are still being given the wrong information. I think on my personal pages earlier, I said that I had somebody reach out yesterday and say that they wish that they had heard that a hysterectomy doesn't cure endometriosis because they went through with theirs because the doctor told them it would. And now they're on the opposite end and they're like hearing all this information and it's not the case, right? And so I think regardless of our symptoms and what we're going through, like we're always slapped with misinformation. And my husband said, isn't it good though that Endo's getting airtime? And I'm like, sure. Like,
Not the right airtime.
yeah, right. And so he couldn't like understand why I felt so frustrated and so emotional by
Mhm.
it. And I said, it's great. Like, sure. Like, I remember whenever Bindi Irwin came out with her story, and oh my gosh, I got like 4 or 5 people sending me the articles, like, how exciting is this? And I'm like, yeah, like it is exciting. And I wish that I could be like completely happy that celebrities are getting airtime because people are going to listen, right? But people
Mhm.
are listening to the wrong things.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating. And it
Yeah.
leaves you like really emotional by it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like even like it's been over a year and a half since I got diagnosed.
Mhm.
But even sometimes like listening to like these other people who are still trying to get diagnosed, it sometimes like if I'm not in the best headspace, it triggers me
Sure.
because of like I think back on my emotions of like not all those years of not knowing what was going on and knowing how horrible it feels to not know what's going on and going to countless doctor's appointments
Yeah.
and them telling you like everything looks good, but it's like, but I don't feel good.
Right.
And even after I got diagnosed, like I didn't really bother to research endo. I just Googled it and was like, wow, like I have this disease now.
Yeah.
And my pain was getting worse. And I was like, I just want to get everything removed
Mhm.
because I was like, I thought that would was a cure.
Right.
And I was still 22. No, 21. I was 21 still. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna get married, have a kid, and get everything removed within this next year. And I was like, because I can't do this. And then, as more another month or two passed and I looked more into it and I joined these Facebook groups, I'm like, whoa, what if a doctor would have
Yeah.
done it?
Right.
And I like, where would I be if, some crazy doctor would be like, yeah, sure, let's take it out.
That's the thing is that they are so willing if you have a kid. Like for me, and it's funny, let me back up a little. It's funny that you're like, I was diagnosed a year and a half ago, right? Because when we sit and we have these conversations and like we're both here running a nonprofit to benefit other people, I feel like at times people are like, oh, they've had endometriosis forever. I'm 4 years diagnosed and you're a year and a half, right? And so
Mhm.
it's so crazy that we've been dealing with this for so long that it doesn't, when you sit down and you think about like how long you've been diagnosed, you're like, it can't have been that short of amount of time, but it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like you were saying, like so many doctors are willing to take out people's uteruses. I remember me being, I don't know, a little bit older than you and begging for a hysterectomy. And they're like, but you don't have a kid and you have to have a kid. And I'm like, I don't want a kid. Like, you're gonna force me to go have a child. And I don't know if I've ever told you. I don't know if I've ever like actually told you how I got to my hysterectomy. I was so desperate that I was like, I just want the monthly pain to stop, right? I didn't
Mhm.
care what it was going to resolve or what issues it was going to cause. I just could not keep missing work and be in as much pain as I was every single month. And so I was at my wits' ends with, I was going to so many doctors. I've been to probably like almost every gynecologist in Fort Worth. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's a lot.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. And they're all like, you have to have a kid. And I'm like, but I really don't want one. Like, you're going to force me to have a child, even though I really don't. I don't want a child. Like, I want to be childless. Right. And so I went on Reddit And I was like, surely somebody has been in my shoes on Reddit. And there was a Reddit thread that was like all the doctors who are willing to sterilize a woman without a child. And that's how I found my doctor. And sure enough, I went in. Yeah. Isn't
Wait, what?
Yes. I swear to you, that's my story. I bet I could go find the Reddit thread and send it to you. Um,
I
mhm. People are desperate, right? People are in our shoes. They're having pain, or, they don't want to be on birth control, because I couldn't be on birth control. I had so many symptoms, like even the Mirena implant. I can't talk. Mirena implant. It was awful. Like, it was the worst year of my life begging the doctor to remove it. Right. And so I was so frustrated and just at my wits' ends. And I was like, surely somebody on Reddit. And yeah, there was a full thread. It's got like a map and doctors in every state. They're willing to sterilize women who don't have children. And so I went in and I saw him and I'm like, I'm going to be honest, this is how I found you, and I want a hysterectomy. And so he counseled me on it. And at that point, he didn't suspect I had endometriosis. He found some fibroids and was like, sure, like, I'll just put this down as the reason. We'll bill insurance. It'll be all good and dandy. He's like, go home, talk to your husband, and come back. And I was like, oh, still, we're running into a barrier where I have to like go get my husband's
talk to
approval.
somebody about what you're doing with yourself.
Exactly. My husband didn't care. And so I very quickly made an appointment with him and I was like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. And then after my surgery, he was like, oh, it's going to cure your endo. Like, you won't have any more issues with it. But I got what I wanted. And flip story, and I won't like share who it is, but somebody I know was forced to have a second child, to be able to get their hysterectomy. They didn't want a second child. They were young and were fine with the one that they had, but they were forced into it to be able to achieve the goal that they needed for their health. And so that makes me sad hearing you talk about like, oh, you were going to like get married and have a kid like within the next year and like get everything taken out just for the sake of getting relief. And you have like school to finish, like you have goals you want to meet, right? And that makes me sad to know that you're not alone in that. And there's probably people out there having kiddos that aren't ready for them just so that they can get what they need.
Yeah. And like, that situation within itself is just terrible. And then you think, like, I knew already that I had to get married and have a kid in order to just make a decision about my own body. And then adding on top of wanting to do it just for the sake of like pain relief.
Sure.
Like all that just it's mind-boggling because even I can't remember what chapter of the book Bleed by Tracy.
Yeah.
She talks about like, they're forced to have babies and it's not like you can just toss them once you're done with them.
Right.
Like you're forcing something that has major, not repercussions because that makes it sound bad, but
it does. I mean, when you think about it, because if somebody's forced to have, if I had continued to hit roadblock after roadblock, right? I don't know that I wouldn't have come to the end of the road of being like, we want a child-free life, but I have to have a kid to get what I want. And that's not fair to the child. And that's not fair to my husband or me or any of our goals that we had, right? Like, it's okay to want to be child-free. And doctors don't. And that's what I'm trying to like phrase is in my new bio. I said I have a unique perspective and not wanting to treat endometriosis for a fertility reason. It is a very unique perspective.
yeah. Well, because I mean, even the other day, on our meeting, we were talking about how like all four of us board members are on different paths, just not in the same exact one, but like with the chronic illness.
Sure.
Um, and we're all just in different places and want to go in different directions.
Sure.
Or like, you already went your direction. And, with your decision to not having a kid, I'm still in like, I want to, but I don't know if I can.
Sure.
And Jessica
Done.
has kids.
Yeah.
Jess has her kid. Try not to get them confused anymore. It's just like, And I really love that we can respect each other's, you know, past decisions or future decisions.
Right.
And even though they're different, we're able to still come together in certain frustrations that we've experienced because of endo or
Yeah.
chronic illness and chronic pain.
Yeah.
But it's tough for everyone.
Hmm. Wouldn't it be nice though if like that respect could extend beyond like friends or board members or nonprofits or provide extend to providers, and where providers say like, I respect that you're, a grown person with a brain and can make that decision to not have a child, or to make the decision to have one child and be done, right? Like with the person that I'm talking about, they were forced to have a second child because the doctor said, well, what if the first one dies? And they're like, the
What?
second child doesn't replace the first one. So what does it matter if my child passes away? Like that second child isn't a replacement. And so it's just like the ideas that were like placed upon this person, right? And I don't, I always want to like preface that I don't always fault the physicians. Like everything goes back to the way that we educate in this country, our medical school education. And, every time I share with somebody that we know that physicians aren't getting hardly any training in medical school about endometriosis, people's jaws like hit the floor and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, for real. Like,
I don't feel like, or maybe it's just because we've known it for so long, like it doesn't sound shocking anymore.
no.
Like, yeah, they don't. That's how it feels.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
like, it's surprising how surprising it is to others.
Sure.
But I was like, that's the main reason nobody knows what the heck this is.
Right. Well, and that leads back to the conversation that we started, right? That there's so much misinformation. And I think I can see my husband's perspective and maybe a lot of people's perspective, right? And a little preface real quick, like everybody's human. And so somebody could have misspoke, and that's perfectly fine. However, this is happening a lot. And every time like a news station or a magazine interviews a celebrity, they get it wrong and they're putting that misinformation back out. And then we are the ones that suffer, or the people who are trying to get a diagnosis suffer. And it just really delays the time. And that 8 to 10 average, I don't know many people that were diagnosed between 8 to 10 years. Most people that I know are closer to the 13, 14, 15 mark. I'm 14 years. I think Jessica was 14 or close. I think she was definitely over 10. I'd have to double check with her, but you're much shorter of amount of time. But it's rare that I hear anybody say that.
Yeah, well, even then, like, and this is something I tell my boyfriend a lot that I hate saying that I'm lucky it only took me 4 years.
Hmm.
Like, that just sounds so ridiculous
Does.
to say, like, oh, I'm lucky it only took me 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
it should take no one 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, any amount of those years
Hmm.
to get diagnosed or get listened to.
It's very true.
And again, it makes me so frustrated that it takes so long.
Mhm. Yeah, and we don't share it enough, but we should probably share it more. Or I try to like make it a point to tell people that they've determined that endometriosis pain is comparable to having a heart attack. Like, can somebody who doesn't go through this, can you sit back and just think if you were having a heart attack for, 7 days out of the month, all day long, like this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And for so long, people have been told, like, oh, it's just period cramps. Like, that's normal. I don't think that that's normal. Most people who think that they're having a heart attack go to the hospital, and we are expected to go to work and expected to do house chores and expected to go to school. I mean, I was when my pain started, I was 15, 16 years old. I was forced to go to school every single day, even when I was in that much pain. Can you imagine? People don't go to work when they're having a heart attack, they go to the hospital.
Or like even like, you know, it goes into, you get sick and people are like, oh, like you need to rest. Rest is it's important.
Yeah.
And I had told my doctor, I was like, I just feel super tired all the time. Like I'm very fatigued. She's like, well, your body's fighting against itself 24/7. Of course you feel tired. But if I were to take the rest that I feel like I needed, people would be like, you're so lazy. Do like you need to do something. And
Yeah.
it's also just with school, I can't
Right.
just lay in bed all day long and get the rest that I feel like I need or my body needs.
I mean, how many of us can? If I were still having periods and in that amount of pain, I couldn't take off from work. Like the economy's not that great right now. We're, have expenses, have bills. Like the older you get, I mean, if for people who have kids, they have kids that are relying on them. You can't just clock out, 7 to 9 days a month. It's just not realistic.
No, and like I said, like I feel like it'd be easier for me to just fake being like sick, like, oh, I have a cold and get away with that than just saying like I have a chronic illness and I need to rest.
Sure.
Like I feel like those two things are seen completely different and not in like, yes, obviously they're different situations, but
Right.
they're seen differently. Like one makes sense, one does not make sense.
100%. It's like that quote that says something to the effect of people don't fake being sick, they fake being fine.
Mhm.
Like that totally applies to our life.
Yeah, for sure. But
My mother-in-law was telling me the other day, like, I didn't realize that you were still struggling with so much pain. Like, and I was like, well, that's because if I told you how much I was struggling all day, every day, like that's all you would hear about. Nobody
yes,
wants to hear
I
that.
was just thinking that the other I had therapy last Friday
Yeah.
and I was telling her like I'm so tired of faking that I'm okay all day long and like having to go places and you know not be wincing in pain all the time because I think there's been like 3 4 different occasions where like my pain gets so bad in public and like it's visible and I
Mm,
just feel people like staring at me like
yeah.
what's wrong with her and I was like I'm tired of faking but I also don't want people to see the real raw hurt side of me.
Yep.
And so it's like, so what do I do?
Right. You're talking about that and it makes me think back. So, uh, for my birthday weekend, which was this past weekend, we always go to this festival. It happens every weekend on my birthday weekend. And it's always so busy by the time we get there and parking is, way out in Timbuktu. And so you have to walk. Well, the whole festival is walking. And I shared my picture about how swollen I got by the end of it. And I was driving to go park like really far out and I kept thinking like, oh, there's all these parking spots for handicap. And I started to kind of dwell on it like at what point do I ask for a handicap sticker so that I can enjoy because parking and having to park way out, that's taking some of the energy and time that I have before my
The
body
little that
tells
you
me
have.
no. Yeah, the little energy, but also the time before my body tells me like you're tapped out, lady, like you got to go home and lay down. And if I could save that amount of time walking from Timbuktu to the event, I could have, that much more time at the event and time with my family and my spouse and, enjoying myself. But at the same time, I'm in that same boat of I don't want to deal with the repercussions of people saying like, oh, you look healthy. Why are you asking for this? Or why are you parking here? Or why are you taking from somebody that needs it? And, we had somebody in the community say that they had used one of the scooters at the store, but, we're kind of nervous to do it, or I can't exactly remember what they said. but they needed it. And I said, I'm proud of you for, doing self-care, but I am in the same boat, right? Like I know that I probably am getting to a point where I'm going to have to ask for some kind of, handicap sticker or avoid going places where I know I'm going to have to park really far out. And that's really frustrating. And I think that goes back to we know what we need to take care of ourselves, but it's so hard to get to that point.
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad you said that because I've been struggling with that this past week.
Yeah.
Um, at my last pelvic floor therapy appointment, she said that maybe I should, on harder days, use a walking cane to help put less pressure on my bad side.
Yeah.
And I went and bought one and I left it in the packaging for like 4 days
Yeah.
because I was like, I know I need it, but I don't want to use it. I was like, I don't want people to look at me.
Right.
And I was like, because already I look a lot younger than I am. So I'm not taken as seriously sometimes in certain situations.
Right.
Like adding something when you can't visibly see something wrong with me. I was like, what if someone tries saying something or, something, I don't know. Like, you just start spiraling about what are people thinking
Yeah.
or people might say. And I was like, I don't want someone to think I'm not okay. And I was like, but I can't wear a freaking sign on my head that says, you know,
Visible illness. You want
I
one
have,
of our stickers?
I have, and my business card. Here's my health business card. And then I used it finally to go to my counseling therapy appointment
Aw.
because I was like, I will feel safer
Yes.
doing it there. And she said, the first thing she said was, I see you have a new accessory. So I explained why I was using it. And then I tapped into, I don't want people to see me and be like, is she faking? Like, she doesn't look like there's anything wrong with her.
Right.
And on the way out, they have like a sliding door. Once you like walk out of an office room, they have a sliding room or
Yeah.
sliding door into the waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
And never, ever, ever has she ever opened that door for me. But that day she did. And I was like, I don't think it's a coincidence,
Yeah.
right? Because I was like, this is what I don't want. Like, I can still
Yep.
do things on my own. I
Sure.
don't want people to treat me like I'm different
Sure.
because of this. And so she was like, but I just, you just have one hand. I was like, this one hand can open the door. And she was like, okay. And she shuts the door. She's like, it's all yours.
Aw.
But I was like, I don't know. I'm assuming it was like a subconscious decision for her to open it for me.
Sure.
But I was like, those are things like I'm don't want to deal with. And we went
Right.
out to eat that night. I took it again. And I think I just stared at the floor the entire time because I was like, I don't want to make eye contact with anybody. I was like, because I don't know what kind of gaze I'm gonna meet.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do I care so much? Because, I know what's wrong with me. I know what I'm going through. Yet I care so much about what others
Mhm.
might think. And I was like, that just makes it so much harder for someone to take care of themselves.
Right. I think we internalize it so much. I mean, I'm in that boat, like I'm talking about, like with the parking sticker. I'm not at a place where I can take care of myself the way that I need to because I don't want to come to terms with the fact that I'm in that place either, right? Like, not only do I not want to deal with like any kind of feedback or anything from anybody else, but I don't know that I'm ready to accept where I am.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'll do it if you do it.
I have to convince the doctor first that I actually need it. Although my pictures from this weekend were pretty convincing because it hurt. And I think also, I don't know if I just flared my body up more, but I have swelled like almost every day this week just from like standing and cooking dinner. So I don't know if my body's just like really
Oh,
done.
tired, yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because I was wearing jeans because I had gone to get blood work yesterday. And so I was cooking dinner in my new jeans and they're super stretchy. But I had told my husband, I said, can you go get me a pair of pants so I can change out of these jeans with a button and go get into something a little bit comfier? And he's like, well, which pants do you want? I was like, it doesn't matter what you bring me. They just have to be like really stretchy. I said, if you can't go like this, don't bring them to me. And so he comes back with like 3 pairs of yoga pants in his hand. And he's like, they all have different bands. Which one do you want? I was like, the stretchiest one would be great.
You
So
can fit 10 blue whales in
there.
one. That's the one I want.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah. The other day I tried on like I think it was like a pair of sweatpants or something.
mhm.
In high school, I was like a 00,
Yeah.
and I'm nowhere close to that anymore. And so like I was trying on a pair of like medium sweatpants. I had leggings on, so like I just put them over because I didn't want to go to the dressing room. And like I was like, oof. And my brother was with me. I was like, they don't make size mediums like they used to. And he thought it was so funny. And he's like, there's no way those don't fit you. I was like, they don't fit.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe right now, but I was like, I know if I were to bloat in like 3 hours,
Mhm.
these would literally be cutting the circulation in my waist.
Yeah. Hmm. I feel that
And
so much.
yeah, and I was like, you have to have like, or at least I carried like 3 different size pants in my car just in case I'm out and I can't handle the ones I'm in and need to.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not there yet either. I still really like my jeans. When we were at the festival, I wore jeans to the festival, and my husband was like, why? Like, why don't you just give it up already? And I was like, I want to look cute. And he's like, yeah, but at some point, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that they're not reasonable anymore when we do stuff like this. And he's right. Like, I could have totally have enjoyed myself more. I just have to get my brain there. And I think that's a battle that we all face so much, whether it's
Yeah,
using a cane or asking for a handicap sticker or riding the scooter around the store or doing something as simple as wearing a pair of yoga pants instead of jeans. Like we all just have to get to that place of acceptance of where we are and that this is our new normal. And, I think in a way we can put a really positive spin on it. It's just getting to that point, and I don't think any of us are alone in
yeah,
wanting to get there and finding the right path. So,
yeah. And I feel like I kind of feel the opposite of pants. Like I want to get to a point where I'd rather wear pants or jeans
sure.
than leggings because that's all like I just wear leggings. But I think back to like, wow, I used to wear jeans and crop tops and like now I go to the store, I'm like, oh, this shirt's cute. And I was like, why is everything cropped? And I was like, don't we know we need full length shirts these days? And fold it back angrily, but
Yep.
like it's yeah, there's so many aspects to this because there's like that
Yeah.
insecurity I start feeling because I'm like, probably look like such a bum just in leggings and a t-shirt all the time. But it's so hard, even on a good day, to be like, I'm gonna put on a pair of jeans and a nice shirt.
Right.
But I was like, but I'm not gonna be comfortable probably by the end of this day.
Right.
And I hate that we're put in positions of having to choose what we want versus what we need.
Yeah.
It'd be great if it could be together. The same. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Maybe somebody just needs to invent like the most comfiest pair of jeans that stretches. Look, I'm not opposed to wearing maternity jeans. I have thought about it.
Okay, I tried it, but I think like since they're based on different belly sizes, I guess, like how pregnant you are, like in the morning, I was like holding them up because
No.
they're just too loose.
Yeah.
But then on a bad bloated day, they fit just fine.
Okay. See, somebody just needs to design a pair of pants for endometriosis people.
It needs to be.
I'm here for it. I'll buy. If anybody knows how, I'll buy like 4 pairs. Okay.
I'm just thinking, what would be like the best way to make those kinds of pants?
I'm here for it. Well, I think this is a good place to stop our chat. Zoom's about to end us because we have a free account again because Google Meet is superior lately.
But they don't let us record.
We'll have to figure that out. There has to be a way.
They would.
Well, thanks for sticking with us. We want to do more of these. If you're interested in it, drop a comment in the comments below and we'll find a topic for maybe we could do these weekly. I don't know. It might be a good therapy session for us to get
Random topics in. And always feel free to ask to join these.
Yes, we would love to have people join, providers, people who have endo, if you wrote a book, if you
Yeah,
want to come and talk about
questions.
something, questions. Yeah. Ooh, a fun Q&A. I like it. Well, thanks for joining us. Hope everybody has a great night.